So here we are in our inbound messaging module. And just to orient before we get started here with the legend, white items in this flowchart are going to be items that are being performed or actions performed by the system. So those are your automations. Green items are actions performed by account admins or managers of the account. And purple items are account customers of the account. Then we have variable links, which are lines that connect items in the flowchart that are dotted, which means that those might be actions that occur or they might not, depending on the decisions that are made inside of the flowchart by humans. Then you have fixed links, which are actions that are not variable. They are going to occur for certain. And so then we just have a few different shapes here. And so this shape we'll use to represent adding tags and things like this. This shape we'll use for funnel steps and websites. This shape we'll use a lot of times for workflows or other automated processes. And then the diamond is our decision tree. Don't worry about the shapes. If you don't understand, you should still be able to understand the flowchart pretty easily. So let's get started with the flowchart. So here we have inside of the inbound messaging B-008 a manual action that occurs, which is a form submit. And this would be the B-008 CUF contact us form. So let's just quickly go look at that in the system. So if we're here in our form folders, we just need to click on our B008 module here. And here's our contact us form on the website. And this is intended to be a form that you embed on your own website or on your customer's website. This form is not currently embedded inside of a funnel that we're giving to you. It's just so that you can embed it yourself. And it's going to be a simple form, first name, last name, phone, and email. So if we go back to our Miro board here, we can see once this form is submitted, then we have the workflow that begins B-008-WF-4.1. So let's go take a look at that workflow. So here we are in our workflows. We're in automation on the left-hand menu nav, and we're going to go to our B-008. And we're looking for our 4.1 workflow, which is this contact us form on the website. And so let's go back to our Miro board here. So we can see that when the contact form is submitted, we're going to be adding a tag to this contact right here, contact us first entry. And we're going to be updating the source of the contact such that we can see that it's coming in from a contact us form. And then we're checking some logic up here just to make sure that this is the first time the contact is making it through the system and that they're not for some reason already flagged as spam. And then we're sending out some internal notifications, adding a task, and then just sending out a thank you email to the person that filled out the form, letting them know, hey, we did get your form submission. So back on our Miro board here, we can see that after this tag is added, there's a line here that's linking down to this tag routing workflow. And so we're going to get into that in a moment once we finish these other paths. So let's begin next with this initiated web chat path. And so web chat, if you are not familiar with it already, is kind of like a form, which is why this says form submitted up here. The web chat functionality in the system is not currently like an interactive web chat where you can message back and forth. It's really just a form that looks like a web chat widget. And so when someone fills out the information on that web chat widget, this workflow is going to begin, which is the B008WF1.1 workflow. So let's look at that. So here we are inside the 1.1. Just so you can see the trigger type here, we're using a customer replied to chat widget. Replied channel is chat widget. And so that's going to be our trigger here. And then we're adding a tag, web chat first entry. We're checking the same logic here to make sure that they haven't already contacted us via another channel. We want to make sure this is the first time that they're coming through and interacting with us. and we're going to send some internal notifications, and then we're going to change our messaging a little bit based on whether we're within or out of the business hour time range, which we have set by default from 8 a.m. to 7 p.m. This is something you can modify if you'd like to in the workflow. So back in our Miro board here, we can see the same thing occurring. The workflow begins, the tag is added, and then that'll be picked up later by the routing workflow. So let's go down to our first time Facebook message. We're looking at a very similar flow here. Customer initiates a Facebook message, and then the 3.1 Facebook Messenger workflow fires off. So let's go look at that workflow. So here we are in the B-008-WF-3.1 Facebook Messenger workflow. And again, we're checking to make sure this is their first time coming through and interacting with us. And then we're adding the Facebook Messenger tag, updating the contact source, sending an internal notification to the team, and then sending a message back to them. And the message is different based on whether it is within or out of business hours. And we could see the same thing occurring here in the Miro board also, where the tag is being added, and then the person is being, the tag will be picked up by the routing workflow. So let's go ahead and go to our Instagram. So we're going to open the 5.1 workflow here. Here we are inside the 5.1 workflow for B-008, and we have our trigger type here for reply channel Instagram DM, and checking to make sure they haven't interacted with us before, sending an internal notification, adding the Instagram tag, updating the contact source to Instagram, and then sending conditional messaging to them based on whether we're within or out of business hours. And we can see the same thing happening here in the Miro board. The tag is being added, which will be picked up by the router. And we're going to go ahead and go to our first time GMB message, which is our 2.1 workflow. So here we are inside the 2.1 workflow for GMB messaging on the B-008 module. And we're checking to make sure contacts have not interacted with us before, because if they had, they would have tags. And then we're going to add a tag. We're going to add the GMB message tag and update the source to GMB. We're going to send some internal notifications, and then we're going to do some conditional logic here to see basically, are we, and this is a little different than the other workflows because we're also checking to see if it's on the weekend. So we have weekend, and then we have during the week, and if it's during the week, is it within business hours? And so then there's different messaging that happens conditionally based on where people are at inside of what time it is. So we can see the same thing happening here in the Miro board after they're picked up in the workflow. Then the tag gets added, which will then later be picked up by the routing workflow. So now that we're done with this flow for the B-008, let's take a look at the routing workflow. So you're back at home base here. You're looking at all of your modules here in automation where the workflows live. And so now to look at the routing workflows, we want to go to A-002, Foundation for Conversation Management. And so right now we've been working through the B-008 module, so we're going to go ahead and open this. And we can see that this workflow is simply just a tag router that is by default currently in this module not doing any additional action. It's just simply triggering when these tags are added throughout the B-008 module. And so the reason why we're doing this and why we're giving this to you is because instead of, let's say that you wanted to take additional action if there's a web chat, if there's a GMB message, if there's a Facebook message or something like this. Let's say perhaps that you wanted to inject these people into a pipeline, for example, very easily. Instead of having to go into all the workflows and add pipeline stages or other actions that you want to take, or maybe there's workflow removal that you want to do from other workflows in your system. This routing workflow makes it really easy to say, hey, if the web chat tag is added, let me add a pipeline stage here, let me add a workflow removal here, or other things like this. So this is your foundation here to build upon and connect to your own system.